Collin Gosselin of John and Kate +8 recently made headlines after he gave an emotional interview with news outlet The Sun. In his interview, Collin detailed the abuse that he says he endured at the hands of his mother, Kate Gosselin. Some of the allegations include, quote, being zip-tied and locked in a specially built basement that contained only a bed and cameras to watch him. Collin's interview with The Sun wouldn't be the first time he has publicly accused his mother of abuse. In 2023, Collin appeared on Vice TV's docuseries, Dark Side of the 2000s, where he spoke about the harm allegedly inflicted upon him by his mother. This video is sponsored by Neurax. Neurax is a digital healthcare platform that makes it easy to get the expert healthcare you deserve at every step of your journey. Neurax provides treatment and care that's personalized to you by helping you make informed choices about your health. Through life cycles, changes, and transitions, Neurax believes that everyone deserves access to personalized healthcare. Their mission is to offer you access to medication at an affordable price, regardless of coverage, cost, geography, stigma, or anything else. Neurax offers a variety of products and medication so that you can find whatever works best for your body. And with both generic and name brands, there's always an affordable option. Visit their website to take a brief survey that a medical provider licensed in your state will review and create a treatment plan for if applicable. Go to neurax.com/BDcommentator to get started, or click the link in the description box below. That's NURX.com/BDcommentator. Life can be difficult. Taking care of yourself shouldn't. On September 9th, 2024, Collin Gosselin gave an emotional interview where he opened up about his disturbing childhood and the alleged abuse he says he suffered from as a child. According to Collin, the mistreatment first started when he was around 8 or 9 years old. He accuses his mother of treating him differently than his siblings by isolating him, segregating him, and preventing him from being with his family. Collin alleges that his mother would also, quote, lock him up in a basement for days on end, zip-tie his hands and feet, and virtually make him a prisoner in his own home. In an effort to seek help, Collin reportedly told his teachers about the abuse, who then reported it to the Department of Human Services. According to the records, there were 9 separate instances where abuse against Collin was reported. But despite the agency looking into these allegations, they concluded that the claims were, quote, unfounded. According to Collin, when Children's Services came to their home to interview him, he was never able to talk to them one-on-one without Kate listening outside the room. In addition to notifying school officials, Collin also reportedly told the camera crew filming their reality TV show about the abuse. But according to Collin, despite speaking out several times, the abuse continued. After showing up to school with a bruised and swollen ear, Collin was pulled out and homeschooled.
I definitely went through it a lot as a kid from my mother's end, so it was tough. My mother, at many, many times, and most of the time, became physically aggressive, verbally very abusive with the things she would say, and obviously that carries over to the emotional side of things where a young child doesn't know any better.
The one that has the most bumps and bruises is definitely Collin. He falls like 56 times an hour, but he's not tough. He gets upset.
A very, very emotionally abusive relationship, and when my mother would put me in that room multiple times, she had zip-tied my hands and feet together and bolt locked the door, turned the lights off, and had cameras there just watching me. In that room that my mother had built, oftentimes she had zip-tied my hands and feet together and kept me locked in there for most or all of the day for multiple days. And that doesn't just make you feel helpless, but it was the fact that I had nobody in my life then. I didn't have my siblings, I didn't have teachers at school, I didn't have anybody, I didn't have friends. I wasn't allowed to visit my father. I had nobody to go to, not one person to talk to. I had no relationship with anybody. I was fully isolated from everybody. I had no friends. That's not okay, what happened.
Upon being disenrolled from school, Collin would be diagnosed with the following disorders: unspecified bipolar disorder, autism spectrum disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. From there, Kate would send Collin to Fairmount Behavioral Health Institute in Pennsylvania. According to Collin, no warning or notice was given. In an interview with Entertainment Tonight, Collin said, "I was starting to tell teachers that my mother was abusive. That's kind of the reason why she sent me away. I'd started to tell people what was going on at home. She caught wind of that and had to put me somewhere where I wouldn't be able to get the secrets out."
Your mom put you in an institution, and this was in about, 2016? You would have been 11 or 12.
11 or 12, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know where I was going, and I've told all my family this. I was most scared I've probably ever been in my life. Up until then, I was at home with my siblings, with my mom, and she didn't give me any information on where I was going, what was going on.
Your siblings didn't know where you were going. Did you say goodbye to your siblings?
I didn't even say goodbye to them. I didn't know it was goodbye.
Did your mother ever come to visit you?
She came to visit me once. It was about for 30 minutes, and the entire time, all she did was lecture me and told me that I destroyed our family. Our family was under a spotlight 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, especially following her divorce, there was this light cast on her as a single mother, taking care of 8 children. And I believe strongly, I know strongly, that the reason I was sent away was for my mother to protect her reputation.
Collin would remain at Fairmount for 22 months. During that time, Collin fell into a deep depression as he was no longer in school and not allowed to see his siblings or father. The only person who knew Collin's whereabouts was Kate. After smuggling a letter to his father, informing him that he had been institutionalized after years of abuse by his mother, Collin would later be moved to another facility in Pittsburgh, where he was finally able to see his father. By the time John and Collin reunited, Collin was a shell of his former self. Having gained a lot of weight from the medication he was on, Collin was unrecognizable. But not only did his physical appearance change, so did his mental and emotional state. Described as a zombie, Collin was broken. In his interview with E.T., he said, "Being institutionalized took a toll on me mentally. It was a really, really dark place. All I had was myself. I didn't have anybody else. I had no support system. It was scary. I was confused. I was lost." In 2018, John would be awarded full custody of Collin and have him discharged from the facility. Upon Collin's high school graduation in 2023, he would go on to enroll in training camp for the Marines. But after appearing in Dark Side of the 2000s, where he publicly accused his mother of abuse, Collin's lifelong dream of being in the Marines would come crashing down. Upon his appearance in the documentary, his sister Maddie took to social media to address Collin's accusations of abuse. In a rare statement, Maddie said, quote, "I never wanted to have to speak up about this in order to allow my brother the ability to live privately after the conclusion of our family's TV show. But I've been overwhelmed by hate messages in the last few days, and I feel I must set the record straight. I do not owe my allegiance to any person or persons who has physically threatened me and every member of my immediate family, some incidents as recent as last year. Further, I will never allow someone who has exhibited hateful and even violent behavior toward others based on their racial identity, gender identity, or religious beliefs to be in my life. Kindness, tolerance, love, and acceptance are core values in my life, and I refuse to compromise them for anyone, even my brother Collin, who has unfortunately made his opinions very clear in private. There's no further conversation to be had about rebuilding relationships with anyone in my life after reaching the point of physical violence and hate speech. I cannot speak any further on why Collin has done these things, just that I have witnessed them. I've had hundreds of people messaging my private accounts with the most hurtful words you can imagine in the last few days, all without knowing the full truth of what we've been through. I'm asking for peace and privacy going forward. Following Maddie's statement, Kate Gosselin would break her silence and tell her side of the story. In a statement posted to Instagram, Kate said, "I have never wanted to have to do this, but I feel I have been backed into a corner and left with no choice. Although it saddens me to do so, I need to speak out now. My son, Collin, whom I love with all my heart, has received multiple diagnoses over the years. For the safety of myself, his brothers and sisters, and for his own well-being, he was placed in a facility following years of outpatient treatment, which proved insufficient for his needs. The decision to admit him was made by emergency room doctors following one of his many attacks outbursts, this one involving his use of a weapon. Fast forward to the present day, and following John's removal of Collin from treatment, my son's unpredictable and violent behavior had sadly continued regularly towards John, Hannah, and others around him. Collin's distorted perception of reality is one of the many issues that he has always struggled with. As many people who have family members grappling with mental health issues can attest, it is rarely and sadly surprising when complete fabrications occur. And this is just another heartbreaking facet of this fight. All parent-child relationships are complex, but when mental illness is involved, it is incredibly complicated and painful, let alone easy for others on the outside to understand. All measures that were taken in our home were at the explicit recommendation of his pediatric psychiatrist and/or his team of specialists, and were put into place to safeguard every member of our family, our friends, as well as our family pets. Unfortunately, I believe Collin remains a very troubled young man who continues to need a lot of help. His brothers and sisters and I have not been directly involved in his life due to his history of unpredictable behavior and violent tendencies towards us. What his sister Maddie posted on social media recently is completely accurate, and I deeply appreciate her bravery in doing so. This is all I have to say on the matter, and I will not be discussing this subject any further at this time. Following Maddie and Kate's post on social media, Collin would be discharged from training camp after they discovered through an investigation that Collin had been previously institutionalized.
Integrating back into society with kids in my age group, it was tough. It was towards the end of middle school, and I remember finding some academic work a little difficult, and I didn't really know how to talk to my peers.
Resilient Collin defied all odds, graduated from high school, and embarked on his lifelong dream to join the military.
I didn't really know that it was the Marines when I was younger, but I always knew that I had that patriotism in me, and I wanted to serve my country, and I always knew it was there. And I remember signing that contract and going off to training and stepping foot, on Parris Island. I just remember on the yellow footprints, I remember as a kid, I never really knew what that dream was, but when I got there, it just all clicked, and I was like, yep, this is what the dream was. And that brotherhood and that camaraderie and the leadership and just how my drill instructors and all the Marines on Parris Island carried themselves. It's truly an amazing. It's amazing. It's breathtaking, and it's such an amazing organization. And this country is lucky to have the U.S. Marines.
Following his discharge, Collin has since launched an appeal. In an effort to get his story out, Collin held an interview with The Sun which has since gone viral. During the interview, Collin provides documentation that contradicts Kate's claims and that he suffers from several mental health disorders. According to Collin, after being re-examined, it has been determined that he has none of the conditions Kate claimed in her post.
My mother talks about how I have a large list of diagnoses. I couldn't defend these attacks. I didn't even know what was going on until my friend actually mailed me a picture of this. It got around and it raised a lot of questions. Things started to get looked through on Parris Island, and what was discovered was that I was in an institution, and from the side of things in the Marine Corps, they, couldn't tell if these claims on social media were true about these diagnoses. They couldn't tell if they were true or not. That ultimately led to my discharge because I wasn't able to provide sufficient evidence that these were false until I got home, and that's when I sought out to get a professional psychiatric evaluation done. A full evaluation was completed, and the doctor states here, Collin Gosselin does not meet criteria for any of the diagnoses of concern in your evaluation request, and that request was from the Marine Corps. Nor do I see evidence to indicate any other psychiatric diagnoses or behavioral disorder in his current functioning. Due to these allegations that she posted on social media, my dream of becoming a U.S. Marine was crushed. Now I have to fight and do everything I can to fulfill that dream still. And it's important for her to come forward with the truth, because I want nothing more than to serve my country. You think your mother's on your side of things, and I wish that things never went this way, and I wish I didn't have to come forward and put all this information out there, but this is very important to me. I'm constantly having to defend myself.
Upon Collin's shocking interview, Kate's lawyer, Richard Puleo, issued the following statement to Fox News. The facts belie the truth. Whatever took place, the ones that are truthful are the ones that took place. She has no comment because it's not going to change the past, and I don't believe she intentionally harmed any of her children in any way, shape, or form. If Kate was harassing or abusing Collin, the authorities would have taken the time and removed him from the family and put him in special services, and would have probably had Kate charged with abuse. Additionally, I don't think the Marine Corps saw Kate's post and decided to throw Collin out. Could Kate's post have had some influence? Sure. I think it may have made them delve into Collin's history, but blaming his mother for being thrown out of the military is misplaced. There's always two sides to every story, and when things take place in the past, it's hard to determine because people have differing recollections and perspectives. However, I can personally attest to this situation, as I knew Kate and all 8 of her children since they were small, and I don't believe she ever did anything intentionally to harm Collin. I think she did whatever she did to protect herself and her family from some of his troubled behavior as a child. That's not to say he's got psychological impairment. I'm not a psychiatrist. Despite Kate's denial of abuse, Collin's sister Hannah has continued to stand by her brother and corroborate his claims. Though it may be an uphill battle for Collin, he is determined to speak out against abuse and advocate for those without a voice. In closing out this video, here are some of Collin's final thoughts. It has taken me a long time to find the strength needed to speak about my mother's abuse. I have finally found my voice, and I hope to be the voice for children everywhere facing abuse. It is never okay. Your story can be told, just like mine. I wish to bring attention to the system that failed me as a child, and hopefully, in turn, it will help others. Seeing pictures of my younger self is still incredibly difficult, but today I feel a small sense of justice by speaking it. I'd like to thank my father for fighting so hard to obtain custody of me and saving me from the institution where I was wrongfully committed. Thank you, Dad, and thank you, The Sun, for sharing my story.
As I'm older now, and I can kind of look back and see videos or pictures of myself younger, it definitely is, it's a crazy experience because, you know, I look at my younger self and it upsets me. You know, I don't even like to look at pictures of myself because it just reminds me of, you know, those kinds of things. And it also makes you realize, like, you know, that's not okay what happened. And you realize that no kid should have to go through it. That's not okay at all. I love my siblings very, very much. I would never hurt them. I would never trash their names in the media. But what I do believe is that my mother is behind the things that they say in the media. She's behind their opinion of me.
Really?
I think if we knew each other today, we'd be very good friends.
Your bear's going in the trash. Say goodbye to it. Yep. Kiss him goodbye.
Oh my gosh, that is disgusting. Who cares?
Who handed it to you? Literally, you handed it to a kid to hand out without wrapping it in foil.
It's not a big deal.
Why are you letting them eat our lunch at this hour?
I
We
didn't
didn't
want
want
any-
Maddie handing a piece of pizza out with her
I
dirty
didn't
hands
ask
out
her
the
to.
window. She did.
Oh, and it's such a travesty.
We don't chew gum when we're 3. Too bad. He can't go through my dryer without ruining all the other clothes.
I'm gonna get dehydrated.
Yes, me too.
My face.
Here. We can't right now. We're going on.
You can blame it on stress. You can blame that you treat people badly because of stress, but it's no excuse to treat the people that love you the most and are closest to you so poorly, because we're the ones that support you and love you.
It's enough to bust your butt and be treated like that for 5 years. I'm gonna cry. It just sucks because I would die for these kids, but I can't spend one more minute with her.
When you heard Ashley say, I would die for these kids, but I can't stand another minute with her, what went through your head?
I hear that in my head. It hurts a lot. I think she was very angry with me, but quite honestly, I think it was a little over dramatic.